Underground. 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 Underground.
Greetings, surface dwellers. My name is Michael, and these are my chthonic musings. In today's video, we return to Free League's Mirth and Mayhem fantasy role-playing game, Dragonbane, to talk about Encumbrance. Your gear, your armor, weapons, the stuff you're hauling out of the dungeon, the whole kit and caboodle. I hope you enjoy it. Alright, taking a look at the Dragonbane character sheet, the middle and bottom of the sheet, I've highlighted a few areas that reference the gear that your character will have. Over in the middle right-hand side, we can see a section that's labeled Inventory with an encumbrance limit and a list of up to 10 lines for gear. I've also included as part of this conversation the memento area where you can write in if your character has a memento, and below that tiny items, and we'll go over all of this in turn. But in addition to that, we have at the very bottom of your sheet a place for you to note what armor, if any, that you're wearing, your character is wearing, and helmet, if any, that they're wearing. And then below that, we have up to 3 lines for weapons, and this is called, this area is for weapons at hand. Now, since there's 3 lines and most people only have 2 hands, this does not necessarily mean that these are the weapons in your hands. Just the ones that are readily accessible to you, let's say. What's actually in your hands will be not necessarily noted on the character sheet, and will be, kept in mind during play, of what you actually equip. And finally, I've included the paragraph from the page before the encumbrance page about gear, and specifically starting gear. And it starts out saying, your profession determines what gear you can choose at the start of the game. And I will go over this in a later video about character generation and choosing the gear. For this video, I'm just concerned with the once you have the gear and the encumbrance rules for that. But I do want to take note of the very last sentence of this paragraph, where it says, in addition, you have simple clothes which do not need to be written down. So that is also part of your gear, but is not part of the character sheet. And one might think, like, that's standard, you're not going to worry about, the fact that you have clothes, you're not walking around naked in the world in most role-playing games. But it's not to be necessarily completely forgotten about in Dragonbane, because there are instances where you might be traveling around and have a mishap, and let's say you're come across some thorny bushes, and your clothes can be attacked in Dragonbane, and there is gear like needle and thread for repairs and such. So it's not something to completely be forgotten about, and you might not don't necessarily scoff at somebody that decides to keep a spare set of clothes, even simple clothes, for just such emergencies. Page 28, Encumbrance. You can carry a number of items equal to half your strength, rounded up, in your inventory without difficulty. Only the items written down in your inventory box count towards your encumbrance. Weapons at hand. You can have up to 3 weapons at hand, which means they are worn on your belt or otherwise readily available for use in combat. Weapons kept at hand are recorded under weapons on the character sheet and do not count toward your encumbrance. Shields count as weapons and are also recorded here. Helmet and armor. Any helmet or armor worn on your body is recorded in its respective section and does not count toward your encumbrance. Food. Up to 4 rations of food count as 1 item in terms of encumbrance. Always record the number of rations you have left in your inventory. Torches and lanterns. A torch, lamp, or lantern is an item. Their fire may go out. See page 52 for details. Lamps and lanterns can be refilled with lamp oil. Arrows and sling stones. You do not have to count every arrow you are carrying. Instead, each quiver of arrows counts as a single item. As long as you have the quiver, you can use your weapon. Sling stones do not need to be noted down at all. You are assumed to have enough of these. Backpack. A backpack increases your carrying capacity by 2. It does not count toward your encumbrance, but you can only carry 1 backpack at a time. Heavy items. Really heavy items count as 2, 3, or even more normal items in terms of encumbrance. These will be indicated as having weight 2, 3, 4, and so on. In your inventory, heavy items take up a number of rows equal to their weight. If no weight is specified, it is always 1. And I'll just add as a note, neither the armor table nor the weapons table in the gear section have a weight column. So therefore, there's no weight specified. So the implication being, as written, a piece of armor that you're, a set of armor that you're not wearing and have stowed into your inventory would be a weight of 1. And same thing for any weapons beyond what you have at hand or you have stowed for other reasons would be a weight of 1 in your inventory. Tiny items. Small and light items that can be hidden in a closed fist are called tiny. Items of this size do not affect your encumbrance at all. Tiny items are recorded in their own section on the character sheet and do not take up any space in your inventory. Coins. Single coins count as tiny items and do not affect your encumbrance as long as they are fewer than 100. 100 to 199 coins count as 1 item. 200 to 299 is 2, and so on. Over-encumbered. You can temporarily carry more than your normal encumbrance limit. In that case, you must make a strength roll whenever you want to move in a round of combat or walk for a shift of travel. If the roll fails, you must either drop what you are carrying or stay where you are. Carrying others. While carrying another person, you automatically count as over-encumbered and cannot fight in combat. Riding animals and vehicles. If you have a horse or some other riding animal, the animal can carry your gear for you. Wagons and boats can carry even heavier loads. You can find them in the gear lists on page 81. All right, let's spend a little time going over items and how they're interacted with in the constrained time frame of combat or round to round actions. And first of all, we have free actions, which are actions. Free actions do not count as your action in the round, but you can only perform one of each type per round, and only on your turn. And as we can see here, there are two of the types of free actions that relate to items. The first one here, draw weapon. You can draw, exchange, or put away a weapon kept at hand. So remembering that you can only do each type of free action once, you can draw a weapon. You can't draw two weapons. You can exchange. You can put away a weapon and draw a different one as an exchange, or you can put away a weapon. But you can only do one, or you only do this draw weapon once for a given round. And the third item here, drop item, as a free action, which is separate from the draw weapon. So you can also do this in conjunction with the draw weapon. You can drop an item on the ground. So for example, you could drop the torch you're carrying and draw your broadsword. Now as far as actions are concerned, and remember you only get one action during your turn per round, and these are chosen from, there's quite a number of actions that you can take, but these are the ones that specifically relate to items. The first one up here, pick up item. You can pick up an item from the ground within 2 meters or from your inventory. The next one down, equip, unequip armor or helmet. Suits of armor and helmets protect you from damage, but also restrict your movement. But you can use an action to equip or unequip one of these. And just as a note, I'm just going through the rules as written right now, and might have some commentary about how realistic it is to don your chainmail in 10 seconds. But as written, it's one action to equip or unequip your helmet or armor. And finally, use item. Use a potion or some other item within 2 meters. And also, since we're focusing on items, I'd like to review again. I touched on this once before in Musing number 2, abilities and spells, but we'll go over it again as it relates to items specifically. Magic and metal. Metal has an anti-magical effect, which means that you cannot use magic if you are wearing metal armor or have a metal weapon at hand. This includes partially metal items such as axes, spears, studded leather, and arrows, but not staves, clubs, or slings. And this part is important. Items in your inventory do not count. Well, it's all important, but I wanted to highlight that last sentence about items in your inventory do not count. So you can have a metal axe, for example, or a suit of chainmail in your backpack, or in your inventory in some way, and not have it affect your magic. Also, I wanted to highlight in the gear section about quivers, which is where the arrows are kept. And there's actually two types of arrows, two types of quivers of arrows, iron head and wooden head. Now, presumably, the wooden head arrows would not follow this logic of the arrows being, metal and having an anti-magical effect. So I just wanted to establish that before I move into my thoughts and opinions. All right, folks, it's thoughts and opinions time. First of all, and I've probably said this in every Dragonbane video that I've made so far, but I continue to be amazed at how well put together this game is, and how they've made it accessible to beginning players and beginning game masters. So any critiques that I make to adjustments that I would make and how I would, I personally run the game, don't necessarily reflect, a thought that the game should have been different, or it should be, revised in some way, because, that need to streamline it and keep it simplified and accessible to beginners is very important. But at my table, there are a few things that I might adjust and have adjusted to fit my particular needs. And I'll go over them. The first is adjusting for reasonableness in certain situations, and by that I mean the fact that stowing in your inventory weapons or armor would always have a weight of 1. That I would adjust. If somebody, a player, says they're going to put 2 halberds in their backpack, no, you're not. Those halberds are. I probably would just make a simplified rule that two-handed weapons are going to have a weight of 2. They're going to take up 2 of your inventory slots, and maybe the one-handed will just take 1, and just to simplify things. And for armor, I probably would say that the metal armor, the chainmail, and the plate armor are also going to be weight 2 instead of 1. And that's just a simple, it's nothing earth-shattering or, system breaking to say that. The equipping and unequipping of armor and helmets, I'll give you the helmets, and even that might be a stretch, but, it would be a little cinematic and say, you can don and off a helmet in one action. But the armor, no, I might do a ruling in during the game that, if you were, armored and somehow found your way, into the drink, and drowning, I may allow, you to cut some straps with your knife or dagger, and hopefully you always carry a knife or dagger, and free yourself, and we might work that out at the table. But as a general rule, 10 seconds to put on or take off your armor, that's not happening. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is what I call my at-hand house ruling. The system of having, 3, basically like 3 slots of weapons that you can swap in and out of, it flows pretty good during the game. But there are other items that I had a little bit of a problem with. And the first one was, going to the magic and the quivers and the, wooden arrows and the metal arrows. To my understanding, your quivers typically would be going into your inventory, which means that they're not readily accessible. Also, it creates a little bit of a conflict because by the rules, if your metal-tipped arrows are in your inventory, they're not affecting your magic because the items in your inventory don't count for that. And then if you were able to use your arrows from your inventory, which typically takes 1 action to get the items out of your inventory, and fire it from your bow, that would mean that it's not affecting your magic before your action, and then you're taking out an arrow out of your inventory into your bow, firing it, and by the time your action of firing is complete, the arrow is no longer in your vicinity. So you're doesn't affect your magic then either. So that kind of conflicts with the concept of metal arrows affecting your magic. Another issue that I had was looking at bandages, which are used for when you're, one of your allies is bleeding out and you're trying to save their life. If you don't use bandages, you get a bane on that attempt. So, if your bandages are kept in inventory, are they also kind of inaccessible? And do they take a turn to come out of your inventory and into your hand, or do they just magically? It doesn't take a turn for you to access your bandages if you're using them to bind somebody's wound. So that's a bit odd. And then another example was the potion. We know that to use an item, and specifically they talked about potions, takes an action. But it also takes, where is this potion? Unless you're keeping it in your hand, during combat, before combat even starts, then this potion was in your inventory. And so it needs to be retrieved, which is another action. So that means like to drink a healing potion would be 2 actions, one to get it out of your inventory and another one to use it. So for all of these situations, I decided to make a slight modification, to lean into the structure of the weapon at hand and expand that, instead of just weapons, to allow for other items. For these other items to be also easily accessible and at hand and basically ready to be used. So for the quivers, a quiver is required for a bow or a crossbow. But in my modification, this quiver also has to be easily accessible to you. Not packed away in your inventory. So it would be an at-hand item. So that takes up one of your 3 slots. So there are benefits and disadvantages to this modification that I made. Well, I shouldn't say disadvantages. I should say constraints. Let's call them constraints. So now there's a difference between the wooden-tipped arrow quiver and the metal-tipped arrows. Because they're at hand, they do affect your magic. Well, the metal-tipped ones affect your magic. For the bandages, you can have bandages readily accessible at your belt. And so when you need them, they're ready to be used without having them in your hand at all times, waiting for them to be used, waiting for them to be necessary. Similar thing with the potion. You can have a potion that's hanging from your belt, and again, that's constraint of that's one less actual weapon you can have, but it means that that potion is ready to be used, so that saves you an action. So it's a choice, Do you want to have that ready and accessible, or do you want to have another weapon available to you? So if there are other people, out there came across similar situations or have other ideas, maybe they didn't really concern themselves. You can use your bandages even they're in inventory. Same thing with the quivers. That it doesn't seem to be an issue for you. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Just let me know. Maybe we can get a conversation started. Or if not, it's food for thought for those people running Dragonbane. My friends, Until I resurface, may your successes be many and your failures be memorable.